Hidden beneath the surface of everyday life, between the familiar streets we walk and the routine paths we take, there exists a legend whispered only in Brazil. A story about a place that looks like our world, but isn't. A parallel city where the sky is always dim, the air feels heavy, and its inhabitants watch outsiders with hollow, unblinking eyes. This place is known as Setealem, and for years, it has haunted the imagination of thousands. Unlike many global myths that stretch back centuries, Setealem is a modern phenomenon. Its origins lie not in ancient folklore, but in the early days of Brazil's digital culture. Around the late 2000s, in Orkut communities and internet forums, anonymous users began sharing stories, brief accounts of odd events, strange bus rides, or unsettling encounters with people who seemed off. These stories had no connection to each other, yet each described a similar place, a city parallel to ours, accessible only by accident, and difficult, sometimes impossible to escape. Descriptions of Setealem are surprisingly consistent. The city resembles ours, but everything feels older, darker, and eerily silent. Buildings stand in the same locations, yet appear decayed and time-worn. Streets follow familiar paths, but seem abandoned or frozen in a distant era. The sun, when visible at all, is pale and muted, as though the sky itself is permanently sick. And then, of course, there are the people of Setealem. According to the accounts, their skin is pallid, their expressions empty, and their eyes linger just a little too long on anyone who doesn't belong. Setealem is not a place one can search for. There are no maps, no directions, no rituals. In every story, the journey is accidental. A commuter boards a bus late at night. A student steps into an elevator alone. A traveler falls asleep on a long train ride. A driver takes a wrong turn on an empty road. Then, without warning, the transition happens. The world outside the window shifts. Colors fade. Sounds distort. Familiar surroundings feel uncanny. When they step off, they are no longer in their world, but in the ghostly reflection known as Setealem. Every legend has its rules, and Setealem is no exception. Those who claim to have visited say, Rule 1, avoid eye contact with the inhabitants. Rule 2, do not speak unless spoken to. Rule 3, never act like you're lost. Rule 4, stay calm, panic draws attention. Rule 5, leave as soon as you can, because the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to return. In many accounts, it is only by maintaining a facade of belonging that the visitor survives long enough to escape. One story, more than any other, cemented Setealem as a national legend. A man, exhausted after a long day of work, boarded his usual late-night bus. Everything seemed normal until he realized the passengers were unnaturally silent, and every single one of them stared forward with the same vacant expression. When the bus stopped, the world outside was wrong. Gray sky, decaying buildings, and people on the sidewalk who looked almost inhuman. Terrified, he whispered to the driver, "Where are we?" The driver paused, then answered in a low voice, "Setealem." As the man stepped off, all the passengers slowly turned their heads toward him at the exact same moment. He panicked, ran back onto the bus, and within seconds, everything snapped back to normal. He was once again on his regular route as if nothing had happened. To this day, he insists the experience was real. No physical evidence of Setealem exists. No photographs. No coordinates. No verifiable cases. The legend thrives because of its ambiguity and because it draws on a fear deeply rooted in the human psyche, the fear of familiar places turning strange, the fear of being watched, the fear of stepping somewhere you were never meant to be. Setealem may not be real, but for those who tell the stories, it feels real enough. Whether Setealem is a shared illusion, a digital age myth, or something more profound, one thing is certain. It has become one of the most haunting urban legends of modern Brazil. And perhaps that is why the stories continue. Because anyone, at any time, could take the wrong bus, step into the wrong elevator, or walk down the wrong street, and find themselves in a place that looks like home but isn't. A place called Setealem.